Hi, you said that I'd have all of your creative work yesterday and there's still nothing in my inbox. Is everything okay? Hey. Oh, yeah, sorry. I've decided to do things a little bit differently, so I'm gonna need at least another week. That's okay though, right? No, not really. I've got 3 other suppliers waiting on this work in order to fit my schedule. So if we add this unexpected week into the mix, everything's going to be completely knocked out. Oh, right. So can we just push the deadline back and I'll try my best to get it to you then instead? Okay, bye. I've got a fluff on my nose, and every time I speak, I can see it. There it is. Is this the definition of madness? Jesus. Okay. Professional. Totally professional. Today, I want to talk a little bit about creative direction. And in particular, I want to help you figure out and maintain control when answering the question, is external creative a good idea? Stick around with me to get some easy to use tricks to help you make sure that you keep on hitting the creative jackpot over and over again. And let's make sure that every time you work with an external creative, it's a much more mutually enjoyable experience. I personally like to define myself as a little bit of a creative mutant. I've never really fitted in that well with all creatives before because they tend to see me as someone who is ultra organized and mega efficient. And then on the flip side, I've never fully fitted in with the purist capitalist entrepreneur group either, because they tend to think that my creative ideas are just way too nutty. So with that being said, I think I'm probably the best person to help you navigate this with being a creative and a professional at the same time. And if you haven't already noticed, I'm going to be playing those roles in a little bit of a fun role play today on this episode. You can class me in the green turban as the usual presenter Laura that you're used to seeing here every week. So you're getting 3 Lauras. Let's take a look then at some common scenarios of what it can feel like when you're working with a creative. I don't really like that idea. I don't really want to explain why that is, that I don't like it either. I work alone, like a wolf in Twilight. I'm not going to be able to join in with the rest of the team on Slack, and I'm not really going to be available to attend your group meetings. Sorry, will be late. Slept in. Be there ASAP. I hear what you're saying. I know what you said about the strategy, but coconuts are really hot right now. So why don't we just use this as the main creative muse instead? Okay, so some of those examples might have been exaggerated for your entertainment pleasure there, but I promise you that all of them are based on the truth. So that might be where I've worked alongside another creative, where we've shared a client, or it could be where I've hired a creative and I've been really disappointed with the service that I got as a result of it. And when you think about all of those examples together, it's really easy to see why there is this stereotype of what it's like to work with a creative professional who is this antisocial, unreliable nutcase. In fact, just last week, one of my colleagues said to me in a call together, "Hey, that's creatives for you. I always expect the deadline to be ignored." Oh, sorry, Laura, no offense. Now, if you're a creative supplier and you've just watched those silly roleplay examples and admitted to yourself that you might be guilty of 1 or 2 of them with your own behavior with your own clients, then you can take this as an official slap on the wrist from me. Ow. But stick around because I've got some tips for you in this episode as well. Let's get you stepping up and out and away from that awful stereotype as a creative supplier. If I asked you to be really honest with me about where you rank your creative ideas, where would you place yourself? Have you ever even taken a beat to really think about this? You see, in a lot of cases, we only start to question our creativity when we are faced with some sort of urgency, a dilemma, a problem, or a quest. But it doesn't have to be this way. Sex it up! Let me help you navigate your own creative expertise. By following the steps laid out in my How to Sex Up Your Creative Playbook, you will be all set up to define what is a pretty average idea from the best idea of your career or even your whole life. You will be joined by fictional character Margot, the simple-minded 50s housewife. Margot's dilemma comes about when she learns she needs to create a dinner party that is deemed creative enough to help land her husband's next promotion. Dilemma: creativity. This playbook can be used time and time over to help you sex up your own creativity in an autonomous way. To find out more and download your own reusable copy of my How to Sex Up Your Creative Playbook, please visit www.laurapearman.com/how-to-sex-up-your-creativity-playbook. Now, if you're a creative professional who supplies creative to different businesses, my single piece of advice for you today is this. Tell them what you're going to do, then ask them if they've got any questions about that. Tell them when you're doing it, and then ask them for any questions about that. Tell them that you just did what you said you were going to, and ask them for any questions. Present the work to them that you've promised to them, and ask them for any questions. Complete the job, ask for feedback, and then schedule an appropriate follow-up, and then follow up when you said you will. Now, this is a really simple, easy to remember workflow that any professional can start to bake into the workflows that they should already be working with every time they serve a different client. Aiming for an over-communication approach as a way to set expectations is a great way to instill an extra peace of mind with your client. You need to always remember that they don't fully understand how you do what you do, and the fact that they don't understand it makes them feel a little bit uneasy and unsure of what to expect and when things are really going to happen. So when you take the approach of over-communication, they're going to leave working with you fully informed and really delighted by that. Now, if you're a creative pro and you're totally unfamiliar with the idea of a workflow or an SOP, which just stands for Standard Operating Procedure, then it's time for you to shape up and get serious and start behaving like a true professional with making money from the creative that you supply. Trust me when I say to you that this saves an inordinate amount of time on the day-to-day of the running of your business. And in fact, I'm willing to bet that the amount of time that you invest in creating some workflows or SOPs for your business will probably pay off for you within the first 2 jobs that you book, that you run the workflows through. Then that added follow-up process that I just shared with you in that diagram can really dramatically change your turnover and then your profit margin when you build it into your business as standard. It's way cheaper and way more effective to get the same amount of money from the same people on a regular basis than going out there and finding more new clients over and over and over again. Yeah, wow. Right on. Now, if you're on the other side of the coin here that we're talking about today, and you want to work better with more creative suppliers, you need to apply the same sort of workflow, but we're just going to flip it round. Tell them what you need and when you need it by, and then at this point, also add who the other stakeholders are and how they're involved in this deadline in the project. Ask them if they've got any questions. Invite them to deadlines in their diary, and then tell them when the other moving parts of the project are happening around them, always asking and creating that opportunity for your creative supplier to check in and ask questions or give feedback. Share with the creative what has been completed by the other stakeholders and ask them for questions. View the work that they've supplied to you on time and ask them any questions, but you need to make sure that you supply your creative with written feedback that has a reminder of the project deadlines. Remind all of your creatives about their deadlines with at least 48 hours notice and ask them for questions. Complete the job with them and leave your creative with some honest feedback about how you felt the process went. schedule an appropriate follow-up with them, and expect to be delighted in the way that the creative follows up with you. Yep, got that down. If you're wrangling with different creatives and trying to grow your business right now, then you should probably think about subscribing to Moi TV. I share more tips about how you can get better results from creatives as a business owner, and I also showcase how I feature my creative work with my clients here on the channel. Stick around by hitting that subscribe button, and if you hit the bell, you're going to be notified when a new episode comes out every single Friday. There is way more beyond the simple workflows that we've looked at today when you're looking at hiring more creative suppliers, or when you're a creative supplier who's trying to fit themselves into a project that's already happening around them. And this is where the real art of solid creative direction comes into play. It's at this point that you can expect to go from being impressed and delighted by your creative suppliers to really maxing out the return on investment that you're getting from working with creative suppliers. And for me, all of those actions and extra little bits can be fitted into the following 3 categories. Removing yourself from the scenario. Cutting yourself out as the business owner from a creative project can actually have a tremendous impact on the end results. As a stressed out business owner who's spinning a lot of plates all of the time, hiring an external creative director to come in and wrangle your creatives on your behalf is usually a great idea. When you get down to it, their time is probably worth less than your time. Doing this well means that you can remove yourself from the minutiae decision-making part of the project and only be involved in the major decisions because you trust your creative director to deliver on the vision that you have. When you do this, you remove yourself from being the bottleneck in pushing your project forward on time. In many cases, you identify more as a business owner than as the most creative mind in the room. So fully delegating this out to the most creative brain in the room means that you're passing the onus and responsibility over to the creative people that you're paying to be more creative and overall deliver a better result for you. Facilitation of collaboration. Now, this can take a lot of time if you want to run everything by yourself, but making space and giving creatives the opportunity to engage and then collaborate with each other can be really powerful. Now, I'm not talking about just flinging people together in a random Zoom meeting that's off the cuff and not prepared for here. You need to really think about how you're going to facilitate creative teamwork. You want to make everyone feel comfortable in communicating so that they can start riffing off of each other and making your creative really sing for you. And this leads nicely onto the next category, time and space. Now, when you're planning out a project that involves a creative element or a mixture of different creative elements within it, there's a very strong chance that as a business owner who wants to get the job done and move on to the next thing, that you're going to drastically undermine how much time you ought to calculate for the creative part of the project. Sure, great creatives can work very fast, but probably not as fast as you would ideally like. So when you're mapping out your milestones and your deadlines within a project, I would always heavily recommend that you add a little bit more time than what you think is necessary when it comes to the execution of the creative elements. Now, if you're in this process right now and you're really unsure about what is a reasonable amount of time and what is too much time, I am more than happy to have a quick chat with you over on Instagram in the DMs. When you get the blend of each of these 3 categories right for your particular project, you create this amazing foundation. You empower your creative suppliers and you give your suppliers enough responsibility so that they feel ready to start coming to you with really great recommendations. These are recommendations that fulfill your creative brief, but probably in a way that was beyond what you could ever have imagined yourself. What do you think about this? I'm really curious to find out from you today where you see yourself fitting in this mix. Are you a purist creative? Do you own and run a business? Or are you like me and you identify as a creative entrepreneurial mutant as well? Let me know below in the comments. If you've enjoyed learning about how to hit the creative jackpot with me today, then you're probably going to enjoy these episodes up next. I'll see you next time. Mwah. Now before you go anywhere, don't forget to subscribe.